All right. Good afternoon and welcome. I am Zach. I'm joined here today by Corey, both from Colorado High Tech, and we are going to talk about AI safety and responsible use. So, Corey, let's jump right in.
Okay, excellent. So, yeah, as Zach said, I think AI has become such a hot button topic. Everybody is talking about AI. And so we just want to make sure, are we having the right conversations? And so, with that in mind, we'll just go ahead and dive on in here. So, let's see, and actually, there we go. Quick preview of our of our whole slideshow there. But so let's go ahead and talk about the fact that AI adoption, it needs to be carefully monitored. And the reason is that yes, AI is transforming the way that people are operating. It's enabling automation, there's efficiency gains to be had, and there's all of these innovative capabilities that we're seeing across departments and organizations. But as with any transformative technology, the speed of adoption has outpaced the implementation of proper controls and governance around it. So, from our perspective as AI, as IT rather, it's essential that we are trying to guide our clients and making sure that they are understanding, yes, there are absolutely benefits of AI, but also there is a responsibility that comes with using it. Most folks, they start using these AI tools kind of informally, right? Someone has an idea, they try it out in their office, they try it out with a document. And so all these things begin to take this organic shape without clear policies, without oversight. And it begins introducing these hidden risks that are sneaking into your environment. And these are things like data leakage, compliance violations, and they can lead to really big problems like reputational damage that's potentially caused by inaccurate or incorrect AI generated output. And so that's why we're here to try and help say, yes, you can adopt AI, but it needs to be done in a structured, secure, and strategic manner. And this really a big thing that you're going to hear us push. And honestly, I think we push it even talking about other topics, but we're going to be talking about education, education anyone who's using it, establish guardrails, and ensure that how you use AI aligns with your existing IT policies and security frameworks. And so, really, through approaching AI adoption in a thoughtful manner, in an intentional manner, we can make sure that we are maximizing the value while we're minimizing risk. And that's really just the goal of this. What we're talking about here today is to provide clear, actionable things that you can do to begin safely integrating AI into your workflows. Because the thing is, essentially, even if a data leak does not contain protected information, it could actually contain information about your network environment. And having that information out there in the ether, it actually makes you a more vulnerable target. And so that's why we cannot emphasize enough that the true risk here lies not necessarily in AI itself, but in the absence of governance surrounding its use. So I've said it before, I will say it again. AI is like any tool, it's a hammer. That hammer can be used to build a house or it can be used to smash your own thumb. And so that's why we need to make sure that we're establishing clear policies, defining approved tools, and implementing monitoring mechanisms to ensure that we're mitigating these risks. And this is where this is not just an IT thing. This has got to come from leadership as well. And by taking a proactive approach, we can begin to create a controlled environment where AI does what you want it to do. It enhances that productivity, but without compromising your security and compliance. And this is the balanced approach that we need to have when we begin looking at leveraging AI within your organization and within your data. So, uh, one of the biggest things that it is important to note here is you have to evaluate your data before you submit it to an AI platform. This is an absolutely crucial step in ensuring that your organizational security and your compliance remain whole while working with this data. Because anyone who's going to use this, employees, users, they have to consider the nature of the information they're handling. And this could be, hey, does this contain confidential business data? Does this contain customer information or regulated content like PHI? Most AI tools operate in cloud environments where data, it's going to be stored, it's going to be processed, and it can even be reused for model training. And all of that is dependent upon that particular tool's provider's policies. And so one of the biggest leaks that we have seen in recent history is in 2023, Samsung employees, they copy and pasted proprietary source code information into ChatGPT. They also uploaded internal meeting transcripts, and they even shared confidential algorithms that they used all internally. So all this data was uploaded to ChatGPT, an external AI. And at that time, and actually still present date, ChatGPT has no enterprise controls and it has no contractual protections. So there was nothing Samsung could do to retrieve that data. It was out there for anyone to see. And not only that, you or I, we could have gone on there and said, "Hey, ChatGPT, what does the Samsung internal meeting sound like?" And all of a sudden, we might be able to pull up those transcripts. I think the concern is not always necessarily that the AI provider is publicly releasing this data, but that still means that privileged or confidential information, it was transferred to a third party without the proper authorization, right? And that potentially creates compliance issues or legal issues. We're constantly dealing with how is data transmitted from one place to another. And a lot of AI tools out there, it's not a consideration that they have. And that's why that really without a clear understanding of, hey, what are your data handling practices? You risk unintentionally exposing that sensitive information. And again, I'm going to keep hammering this home, educating users about the risks, establishing and saying, hey, this is our data handling practices and informing them of it. This defines, hey, here's the type of data that can be used, here's the type of data that can't be used, and ensuring that everyone is aware these are the tools you can use and these are the tools you can't use. And all of this has to be done through communication, through training, right? Ensuring that everyone is staying on top of and is adopting this structured approach. One of the other things we're seeing a lot now, too, is that AI use is becoming more common for personal use. And so it only makes sense that it's going to become more common for professional use. So before you get there, or if you're already there, you need to roll back those instincts. I was just talking to one of our proactive service leads before this, and he mentioned it's the same thing as what we've seen with personal email, right? Folks go to work, they access their personal email because that's what they do at home, not realizing that, hey, you've introduced something that we can't help with, that we can't control. And it's the same thing that we want to be aware of and say, hey, don't just do what you normally do. This is how we want you to do it. And really just to even dive a little bit deeper into how risky some of these behaviors can be, I we recently found out and we're reading a report that talked about law firms, right? Corporate legal teams that are beginning to come under scrutiny because what they're doing is they're uploading confidential documents to these AI tools for summarization or for drafting assistance. And this is a case where, yeah, this is absolutely AI is the tool for this job, right? I want to take a 300-page document and boil it down so I know what's really important and can save time. But if we don't stop and think about how is this getting up there, we're causing a lot of potential issues. And this is conversations that we're beginning to have with clients. But honestly, these are conversations, Zach, even you and I are having.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those of you who don't know me, I am not an IT technician by trade. And so, I'm like a lot of you guys or a lot of the people that work for you. So I'm not well versed in all the implications of, everything tech. And so if I have an inkling of a question or an inkling of a doubt, I'm going to reach out and ask somebody, hey, can I do this? Can I do it this way or do I need to do it that way? And so Corey and I had a discussion, in the not too distant past where I was going through and doing a normal financial documentation review. It's something that I do every month. I spend a couple of hours doing it. I've always done it manually. And I thought, this seems like something that AI could really help me, kind of see the differences and maybe able to provide some insights that I may not see if I look through it myself. And so I talked to Corey about it and I said, hey, I want to compare, these two different reports against each other and get, whatever insights AI has out of it. And so he showed me how I can run that locally on my machine. And then we also talked about how I do have the ability to load that up into the cloud and have AI do it there as well. And so it's secure and I'm good to go if I do it locally on my machine. But if I were to upload those financial documents into the cloud, then I could have inadvertently leaked data about our financials, about our customers. There was a lot of stuff in there that we don't want getting out. And so it's really important, for us internally to do this, but also for all of our customers to do this. And that's why we're on this webinar today. We want to educate everybody on the importance of data classification and data handling. And what are your policies going to be internally moving forward? So you need to define what constitutes confidential information and establish strict guidelines for its use. Any customer data that you have requires, I think, even a higher level of protection, as a breach can result in legal consequences or a lack of trust, which can cost you guys clients. And so implementing robust security measures like encryption or different access controls, monitoring, these can be critical in mitigating these risks. And this is also why we recommend Copilot. So Copilot is a Microsoft AI product. Colorado High Tech Solutions is heavily invested in the Microsoft environment. Many, if not all, of you attending today are really heavy in the Microsoft environment as well, using M365, Teams, etc. And so this integration makes it easier for you to adopt, but it also makes it easier for us to secure your data. So as we move into this next slide, we've talked about what are the ramifications if we're not treating this information, correctly. And so what we want you guys to do and what we want your teams to do is just to do this quick 10-second safety check when considering, should I use AI for this or not? So this quick evaluation process helps you and your users determine whether the information they are about to input is appropriate for AI processing. So the concept is straightforward and it's easy to understand, but it encourages employees to think critically before they pause and share this data with AI. The absence of this pause is what has really led to all of these accidental exposures of sensitive information. And so a safety check is a frontline defense against a lot of these common risks. And we want to make sure that we're reinforcing user awareness and accountability. And this is something that we've talked about, ad nauseum across pretty much every webinar we've ever done. The best way to prevent phishing is to have your users trained to look for it, to have them think before they click on something, keep it top of mind. This is no different than that. And so when they go to click to input something into AI, run through this. So is this information confidential? Does it contain customer data? Is it covered under any compliance regulations that your entity is subject to? And are we using a business approved AI tool? And so if you can standardize this across your employees' decision-making process, this practice becomes ingrained in the organization, in the culture, and it reduces the likelihood, of errors, which will help with your security posture. So in the same way that you need to talk to your employees about, hey, really think about, do you want to, click the attachment on this email before you open it, vet it, make sure that it's legit, make sure you understand where it's coming from. This same type of a process, can be used for AI. And this will make sure that we can still use AI for the innovation and efficiency gains that it can provide.
Absolutely. You mentioned something there about, engaging our critical thinking skills here. And I had heard recently that, a lot of people fear that the use of AI is going to dull our critical thinking skills, that it's going to do it for us. But actually, the fact of the matter is, it should cause us to further exercise our critical thinking skills because we should be thinking about what data am I putting into AI? How am I leveraging it? How is it being processed? And then critically looking at the output it provides and determining how best to use that. So now I think this is a great tool and something that can really help. Again, just a simple step as a user before you begin to utilize AI. And now, kind of moving forward a little bit from the user control side of things, let's look at the actual technical control side of things. Because AI does not operate in isolation. We think, hey, it's in the cloud, it's up there. No, it relies on your existing IT infrastructure, right? It requires your networks, your systems. It requires your data repositories as well. And so, really having a strong foundation to ensure that these AI tools function effectively and securely is very key here. Because without proper infrastructure, AI adoption is going to introduce new vulnerabilities. One of those big ones is unauthorized access. The way that I think there's a good way to depict this, had this conversation with someone recently. Imagine you say, okay, everyone, we've got AI, and you roll it out and you let it into all of your data repositories. Someone goes in and says, I wonder what Judy in accounting makes. If that person has access to that accounting folder, to those folders that have payroll readouts and things like that, then that AI has access to that. So that's where you have to be cautious, not only about, oh, am I letting out information? Is information cross-infiltrating to places it's not supposed to be? Additionally, we talk about data leaks that can cause breaches. And really what that means, and a good way to think about it, data leak is information in comes out, breach, someone from the out comes in. If someone were to say, take your network map and say, hey, could our network run more efficiently? Now, ideally, this is a question better suited for IT, but we'll say for this thought experiment that someone's just super curious and proactive. So they upload that network map to an unapproved AI tool. That network map is out there now. And if someone decides to target your organization, they are going to do their research because it's a lot easier now. Say, hey, what information's out there? And suddenly they have your network map. And now a lot of the guesswork about how you may be set up and protections you may have in place, it's spelled out for you. So this is where we have to have that proper infrastructure, but we have to have the proper technical controls in place too. So this is usually called the principle of least privilege. And it's essentially the idea that I do not have access to any more company data than I absolutely need to have. I don't have access to Zach's files. Zach can get access to my files because, he's big boss man if need be, but I really don't need access to his. And that's where we want to make sure that we have these security protocols, these technical security controls in place before letting AI come in and essentially run rampant around your network. And so this also ensures that we have system reliability, right? This is a new tool. It requires new resources. We need to make sure that we're not overtaxing your workstations and your network. And we do this anytime we bring in a new software. This just happens to be a more powerful tool. And effectively, the way that we approach it needs to be met with that same amount of energy. And so these are things where, yes, AI, it enhances operations, but we just need to make sure that it's doing that without introducing additional risk. And it all comes down to a proactive approach to ensure that the way that we do that is sustainable and it aligns with your organizational goals that you're trying to achieve, but also with the IT goals that we've already worked so hard to put in place. And this is where leadership is so key. And well, Zach, you're our CEO. I don't think anyone could speak to that better than you.
Yeah, thank you. So this really, it has to be a top-down initiative for it to succeed. So strong leadership is required to ensure that these new tools are used in alignment with organizational goals. So leaders have to take an active role in defining the company's AI strategy, identifying the proper use cases for AI, setting policies, and making sure that we're monitoring implementation. So without leadership involvement, these AI initiatives, they can lack direction. They can fail to deliver meaningful results. And, we can end up with one of these nightmare scenarios that we've already touched on. And so when you look at a 2025 enterprise security report from eSecurity Planet, they found that 18% of employees are already pasting data into AI tools. So that's a pretty healthy number, about 1 in 5. Over 50% of those inputs contain sensitive corporate information, which is exactly what we are looking to eliminate. We want to stop this before it starts. And so the time to teach people how to use a tool is not years after its availability, it's right away. And so, these AI tools, they've accounted for 32% of unauthorized data movement. That is a massive number. We've done all of this security work across all of these years to keep your information and your client's information secure, to keep it safe, to keep it confidential. And now we have employees who may not think that they're doing anything wrong or improper, and they're leaking this data out, just kind of into the world. So we can definitely support this process by providing the expertise and the guidance, helping your organization establish these governance frameworks that address the security compliance and operational considerations. So yeah, we've got to make sure that we're defining roles and responsibilities. We're implementing oversight mechanisms. We're setting technical controls to assume or to ensure that AI usage aligns with existing IT strategies. So, and this is something that isn't just a set it and forget it. These are things that we need to touch on and develop and refine over time as well, because the AI that we have today is not going to be the AI that we have in 6 or 12 months. So, it's really on one hand, AI is revolutionary, and we think about it in terms of what it can do, but I don't hear as much talk about the dangers or the worries surrounding what we don't want it to do. And so this structured approach that we've talked about here today can enhance its effectiveness, but then also just build confidence that that your team is using it in the right way and you're getting the benefits of AI while keeping your organization safe and secure.
Absolutely. And so to just kind of put a bow and really summarize everything that we've been talking about here, continuous AI monitoring, ongoing oversight is really just essential to maintaining a secure and effective AI environment. And this is something that we've been talking about for quite a while now, is this idea of cyber hygiene. And Zach, you just said it, nothing set it and forget it. We need to be staying on top of that. And that is as true, if not more so, with AI than anything else, because that technology is designed to change. And so we need to make sure that we're continuously monitoring their usage and then assessing new risks and updating policies to reflect that ever-changing environment. And then key to this is keeping everyone up to date on what is going on, because communication is still a thing that humans are always going to come up against. And so it does no good for us to say, oh yeah, boy, there's this new risky way of doing things. We really shouldn't do it that anymore. And then not actually tell the people that are the ones who need to perform these tasks. And so, through training, through, again, that partnership with leadership and with IT support, communicating and making sure that everyone's staying involved and in the know, that's our best way to remain aligned with the best practices that we've already put in place and that we are already striving to maintain. And so this is where, our proactive service leads, their regular audits, monitoring system performance, all of these things can work together to ensure that we're maintaining that oversight and to ensure that we're identifying and addressing potential issues before they escalate. And this is really our whole goal. And honestly, I think it's really well reflected in what we're doing here today. We are having a conversation. We are sharing the information that we're seeing with you before it becomes a problem so that we can address this in the right way right out the gate. So, thank you everyone so much for your time today. Really appreciate it, and hope that this has been beneficial to everyone. Um, if you have any questions, reach out to us. That partnership is so key. Talk to your proactive service leads. Talk to your VCIO, and we will gladly work with you on how you are implementing AI in your office today. But that is going to be all of our time today. So thank you everyone for attending.